All right, guys, this is day 3 of our ecosystems lessons, and we're almost finished. Today is the day that you're going to talk about food chains and food webs. So let's get started. So, a food chain is a hierarchical series of organisms, each dependent on the next as a source of food. Now, that's a lot of big words. So, let's talk about those big words. Hierarchical means like in steps. So it matters based on where they fall on that food chain, okay? And every organism depends on the other one for food, okay? And it's a flow of energy through the ecosystem. So let's look. I'm going to move myself down here a little bit. All right, so we started with the butterfly that maybe gets pollen from the mushroom, and then the bird eats the butterfly. So the bird is relying on the butterfly for food, and then the snake eats the bird. So the snake is relying on the bird for food, and then the mushroom eventually, once these animals die and their things are left behind, will decompose those animals. Okay, so if this bird were to be eliminated, this snake would no longer have anything to eat in this food chain, and that would be detrimental. Okay, because those snakes rely on those birds. And as much as we don't like snakes, we can't throw the ecosystems out of balance, because the moment that you do that, an animal that relies on the snake will be thrown out of balance. Okay. So whether we like or dislike animals does not play a fact into this. You have to be very careful when interacting within these ecosystems. All right, so let's look. So you've got the secondary consumer, the tertiary consumer, the primary consumer, and the decomposer. So the primary consumer is the one that eats the plant, okay? The secondary consumer um, is the one that's going to eat the first one, okay? And then the tertiary is the one that's going to be at the very tip top. So at the top of this food chain is the snake, okay? And then the decomposer is going to come back in and break down those materials as those animals die off. So let's look at the heterotrophs that cannot make their own food. And this ties back into our vocabulary, but some of this is new vocabulary. So look at the scavenger. That's like a buzzard or a vulture, okay? Scavengers are organisms that feed on dead material. And I know that sounds absolutely disgusting, because trust me, I don't want to have one of those for a pet. But they're very important in our ecosystem, because if those animals were to be wiped out, then we would have dead and decaying material all over our ecosystems. And that would eventually have negative effects on our ecosystems. Okay. So we have to make sure that we're very careful with all of these components. So then you've got the predator. Remember, that's the one that is going to hunt the prey. And then the omnivore is going to eat both meat and plants. So, like, humans are omnivores, carnivores eat only meats, and then your herbivores are animals that eat only plants. So then autotrophs, those are the ones that make their own food. You've got bacteria. These are some examples of the bacteria: cyanobacteria, green and purple sulfur bacteria. And then another autotroph is all green plants like trees, dandelions, Venus flytraps. And then another example are algae, and you've got red algae and green algae. All right, so here's a food web. Remember, the tertiary consumers are the ones at the top of the food chain. They're the ones that no one is going to eat. They eat everything else, okay? And then, so this is the sun down here. This is the energy of the sun going to each of these parts. So it's going to the grass, the tree, some type of plant, the berries, and the flowers, the roses. So then you've got the producers and consumers. So these are the producers. These are the primary consumers. So this row of animals is eating the producers. So this grasshopper eats this grass. Okay. The deer also eats this grass. The deer also eats this tree. The deer also eats this plant. Okay, so the deer is eating 3 of these different producers, whereas the grasshopper is only eating 1 of those producers. Okay, this bird doesn't look like it's feeding on any of these producers. Okay. Then you've got the ladybug, who also is not feeding on any of these producers. And then you've got the bunny, who is also feeding off the grass. And oh, I'm sorry, the ladybug does feed off the roses. So the one that's not feeding off anything right now is the bird. All right, so then this is your secondary consumers, and these are the ones that are going to eat the ones that ate the plants first. So you've got this bird eating the grasshoppers, you've got the wolf eating this bird, and you've got this bird eating the ladybug, you've got the wolf eating the deer, you've got the snake eating the bunny. I think that's a snake. And then now you've got the tertiary consumers, and these are the ones that nothing else eats. So the eagle is going to eat the bird, it's going to eat the bunny, it's going to eat the this bird. Um, the cougar, the mountain lion, is going to eat this bird. It's going to eat the deer. Okay, so all of these animals play a role. And if you look at this part right here, the energy is moving up, but the higher it goes, the less energy is. So the sun gives off all the energy. So the one that has the most energy are your producers. And then your primary consumers eat that energy and they get energy from that, but they get a little bit less energy than the producers had. And then the secondary consumers eat the primary and they get a little bit less energy than the primary consumers had. And then the tertiary eat the next row and they get a little bit less of energy than the row below them had. Okay. So it all plays a huge part. And this is just showing you the names of these animals here. So if you have any questions, make sure you contact me and let me know.